no pay, no rights, and the constant threat of execution if the queen caught you looking sideways at her husband. Welcome to life as a lady-in-waiting in Tudor England, where waiting mostly meant waiting for something terrible to happen to you. Picture this. You're a highborn girl named Hannah Radcliffe, just 16 years old, and your parents have secured you the prestigious honor of serving Queen Anne Boleyn. Congratulations! You've just been sentenced to a life of emptying royal chamber pots while wearing a corset so tight you can only breathe every third Tuesday. But father, I don't want to serve at court, you might protest. Nonsense, daughter. This is your chance to secure a suitable husband and bring honor to our family. Your father replies, already mentally spending your future husband's dowry on a new set of hunting dogs. What they don't tell you is that being a lady-in-waiting is essentially being a glorified servant with better clothes and worse job security. Your day begins at dawn, when you're expected to be fresh-faced and ready to dress the queen. And no, you don't get to sleep in just because Her Majesty was up until 3 a.m. discussing theology or plotting against her enemies. Sometimes the same conversation. The dressing ritual alone could take hours, as Queen Anne selects from dozens of elaborate gowns, all requiring multiple layers that must be laced, pinned, and arranged just so. Make one mistake, and you might find yourself on the receiving end of royal displeasure, which in Tudor England could range from a harsh word to, oh, just a casual beheading. No, no, Hannah. The pearl-encrusted sleeves go with the French hood, not the English gable hood. Are you trying to make me look like Catherine of Aragon? Do you want me to look like the Spanish cow? Sorry, Your Majesty. The 16 pearl buttons on each sleeve must have confused me after I stayed up all night sewing them back on after they popped off yesterday. Let's talk about the actual waiting part. As a lady-in-waiting, you're expected to be constantly, well, waiting. Waiting in drafty corridors while the queen meets with ambassadors. Waiting while she prays for hours. Waiting while she argues with King Henry. Just endless waiting, but not the relaxing kind, the standing perfectly still and looking attentive kind. Did I mention you're not allowed to sit in the presence of royalty unless explicitly invited to? Hope you enjoy varicose veins before you're 20. Then there's the delightful task of attending to the Queen's personal hygiene. Tudor hygiene was, shall we say, conceptually different from our modern understanding. The royal bath might happen once a month if you're lucky, and guess who gets to haul the hot water, prepare the herbs and perfumes, and then dispose of the royal bath water? That's right, you. And don't forget emptying the chamber pot, which isn't just gross but also a sacred duty, as physicians would often examine royal waste for signs of health or, more importantly, pregnancy. Imagine having to stare at the Queen's excrement and then report to the King's physicians. Yes, I believe Her Majesty's humors are balanced today. The consistency was most promising. One of the most historically accurate yet overlooked aspects of being a lady-in-waiting was that you were essentially a political pawn. Your family didn't send you to court out of the goodness of their hearts. You were there to spy, influence, and advance family interests. This meant you were caught between your loyalty to the Queen and your family's expectations. The Tudor court was a viper's nest of intrigue, and ladies-in-waiting were often the ones carrying the messages, overhearing the secrets, and sometimes taking the fall. Remember Mary Boleyn, Anne's sister who had an affair with Henry VIII before and caught his eye? That went well for her, didn't it? Narrator: it did not. Take poor Hannah's predicament in 1536. Queen Anne is increasingly paranoid as her position becomes precarious after failing to produce a male heir. The king's eye has wandered to the demure Jane Seymour, and suddenly being in Anne's service is looking less like a privilege and more like a one-way ticket to the Tower. Hannah, come here, and whispers one evening, her fingers nervously twisting her famous bee necklace. I need you to deliver this letter to my brother George. Tell no one, especially not that rat Thomas Cromwell's people. Great. Now you're carrying treasonous correspondence that could get you executed if discovered. But refuse the Queen? That could also get you executed. See the pattern here? Of course, there's also the constant sexual harassment. The Tudor court wasn't exactly known for its workplace protections. Kings and noblemen viewed ladies-in-waiting as fair game, and rejecting their advances could end your career or worse. Lady Hannah, you look ravishing today. says Philip Jameson, a courtier known for his wandering hands and connection to the king's inner circle. Perhaps you'd like to take a walk in the gardens with me later? What he means is, let me grope you behind the topiary, and if you refuse, I'll tell everyone you're a Spanish sympathizer. The pay was another delightful aspect of the job, or rather, the lack thereof. Ladies-in-waiting were expected to maintain expensive wardrobes suitable for court, but weren't actually paid for their services. The compensation was the prestige of proximity to power and the possibility of making an advantageous marriage. So essentially, you worked 16-hour days for the possibility that some wealthy nobleman might find you attractive enough to marry while you weren't covered in the Queen's bath water. And don't get me started on the health risks. Tudor palaces, despite their grandeur, were breeding grounds for disease. The combination of poor sanitation, close quarters, and the court's constant travel meant that everything from sweating sickness to smallpox could sweep through the royal household with devastating effect. 3 ladies died of the sweating sickness last week, Hannah writes in a letter home. The Queen had their chambers fumigated with herbs and their belongings burned. She told me to take over Lady Elizabeth's duties until a replacement arrives, in addition to my own. When I mentioned feeling feverish this morning, she looked at me as if I had suggested we invite the French to invade. The job security was perhaps the most absurd aspect of being a lady-in-waiting. Your position depended entirely on your Queen's position, which in Tudor England, especially under Henry VIII, was about as stable as a one-legged stool. When Anne Boleyn fell from favor, several of her ladies were interrogated, imprisoned, or, at minimum, disgraced. Imagine showing up to work one morning to find your boss being arrested for treason, adultery, and incest, and then realizing your employment status just changed from royal servant to possible accomplice to high treason. What do you mean, the Queen has been arrested? Hannah asks, panic rising in her voice as she speaks to another lady-in-waiting. They took her this morning. They're saying she committed adultery with 5 men, including her brother, replies Lady Margaret, already packing her belongings. But that's absurd. We're with her constantly. When would she have time? Truth doesn't matter now, Hannah. The king wants her gone, and Cromwell has found a way. You'd better pray your name doesn't appear in the evidence. And just like that, your prestigious position becomes evidence of your complicity in crimes that never occurred. The Tudor equivalent of having your LinkedIn profile suddenly read, Associate Trader, 1533 to 1536. Of course, if you survived one queen's downfall, you might have the privilege of serving the next one. And Boleyn's ladies who escaped execution or disgrace might find themselves serving Jane Seymour, then Anne of Cleves, then Catherine Howard, then Catherine Parr. Each transition bringing new rules, new personalities, and new ways to accidentally commit treason. Congratulations, Hannah. You've been selected to serve Queen Jane Seymour. But I just finished unpacking from when we moved palaces last month for Queen Anne. Well, Queen Anne is shorter by a head now, so pack up again. And remember, Queen Jane prefers white and silver, not Queen Anne's black and crimson. So all those expensive gowns you had made are now politically dangerous to wear. Oh, and she's devoutly Catholic, unlike Anne. So burn those Protestant prayer books before someone finds them. Even sleep offered no respite. Ladies-in-waiting often shared a bed with other ladies or even with the Queen herself. Privacy wasn't just limited, it was non-existent. Every snore, every midnight prayer, every tearful homesick moment was witnessed by your colleagues or, worse, your royal employer. Imagine trying to sleep while Queen Anne tosses and turns, muttering about her enemies and occasionally waking you at 3 a.m. because she's had an idea for a new French hood design that simply cannot wait until morning. Hannah, are you awake? The Queen whispers in the dark. Yes, Your Majesty. You lie, having been sound asleep. I was thinking about the Reformation, and it occurred to me that we should commission new tapestries for the great hall that subtly mock the Pope. Make a note of it. Yes, Your Majesty. You now have to remember this request until morning with no way to write it down in the dark, knowing that if you forget, it could be seen as deliberate sabotage. The final irony of being a lady-in-waiting? After years of service, sacrifice, and narrowly avoiding execution, your reward was often getting to do it all again for the next queen. Or, if you were lucky, marriage to some nobleman who mostly wanted you for your court connections and inside information on royal politics. So the next time you think your job is bad, remember Hannah Radcliffe and her fellow ladies in waiting. Emptying royal chamber pots by day and dodging royal scandals by night, all while wearing a bone-crushing corset and a smile that says, "No, Your Majesty, your new headdress definitely doesn't make you look like you're wearing a small cathedral." Because in Tudor England, the most important skill for a lady-in-waiting wasn't embroidery or dancing or even literacy. It was the ability to wait just long enough to outlive your queen's reign without losing your head in the process. And if that failed, well, at least the executioner would be quick about it. After all, the French swordsman they brought in specially for Anne Boleyn was known for his clean, swift stroke. See? Even in death, royal service had its privileges.